Good afternoon, everyone. So for our next session, this is particularly, I have a personal connection to water. I'm a scuba diver and I'm constantly aware of our water cycle and how, it's a finite resource that all life on Earth relies upon. So it's about as important as it gets. And we're very excited to have a well put together presentation by Ted Norris. I also want to mention that the Regional Water Authority is a sponsor of this event, and we're very grateful for their support. So Ted Norris is the Vice President of the Regional Water Authority Asset Management. He's been with RWA for 30 years and is in charge of planning, engineering, design, and construction of major facility replacements, capital improvement projects, and continuing improvements to water system standards, as well as fleet vehicles, mobile equipment, and RWA's 27,000 acres of land. Is that all? He's a registered professional engineer in the state of Connecticut, and he serves on the board of directors of the United Way of Greater New Haven.
Good afternoon, and thank you for participating in this event to discuss the critical issues of sustainability and our climate. And thank you to the Connecticut Sustainability Business Council for inviting me to participate in this Climate Action Business Summit. As an introduction, my name is Ted Norris. I'm the Vice President of Asset Management at the Regional Water Authority, or RWA for short. The RWA is a nonprofit water utility serving the Greater New Haven region. We supply an average of 44 million gallons of water per day to nearly 430,000 people. This map shows our service territory and other member municipalities. As a water utility, sustainability and action on climate is at the very heart of what we do and who we are. The RWA sources its high-quality drinking water from 4 reservoir systems containing 9 active reservoirs and 7 well fields. We are proud of our water and our work to maintain the natural barriers that maintain its quality. As you may know, healthy forests create a natural filtration system, removing potential contaminants from runoff or from rainwater as it makes its way into the ground and the waterways that feed our reservoirs and well-field aquifers. By maintaining these forests and promoting the growth of healthy trees and vibrant habitats, while identifying and removing invasive plant species, we are able to strengthen this natural filter. The result is that we do not need to do as much work at our treatment plants to purify the water as would otherwise be needed. To put it simply, sustainable, naturally filtered water creates a better product. That, in turn, allows others to do great things with our water. Many of our customers are businesses, and they rely upon the RWA to provide a reliable and high-quality water supply so that they can do their best work. And what does that really mean for our customers? I'll have a friend of ours explain it.
Everything kind of makes New Haven pizza special. It's the ovens that we use, it's the quality ingredients that we use, it's the RWA water that we use. Modern's been here since 1934, so it's about 85 years right now. I've been here for 31 years. The thing I love most about running Modern is I love seeing all the happy faces. I like the people that get excited when they see the pizza and they're happy when they eat it. You know, it's a good job. We have customers that come here every Friday or every Saturday or for longer than I've been here. So I would call that loyalty. What separates the ordinary pizza from the extraordinary pizza is extraordinary ingredients. The basic ingredients in the dough: water, flour, salt, yeast, and olive oil. The RWA water is the most important ingredient in the dough. It is the foundation of the dough. It's also the most affordable ingredient in the pie. The RWA water costs me less than a penny a gallon, but it's pristine, it's reliable. The quality of it is the same all the time. Without good water, you would be making a bad pizza dough. It doesn't work.
Now, if great pizza isn't a good argument for protecting the environment, I don't know what is. This is also a great example of the way our environment and the climate connect in every aspect of our lives. The forests surrounding our reservoirs create healthy watersheds, high-quality water and eventually the world-renowned pizza that New Haven is known for. At the RWA, we know that embracing sustainability in our business is key to a great product, but it is also critical to our state's future. It's no secret that climate change is accelerating, and you don't have to have lived long in Connecticut to notice the extreme weather events are happening more frequently. We had Hurricane Irene in 2011 and the October snowstorm later that year. Superstorm Sandy struck in 2012, and in 2013, it snowed up to 40 inches in our state. Just this summer, we were all affected by Tropical Storm Isaias, and in our territory, a tornado shortly thereafter, which both brought destructive winds and widespread and lengthy power outages. While these storms taken individually may not seem out of the ordinary, the increasing frequency and severity of the storms is something that we have not seen to such an extent in recent past. But extreme weather is not the only change we have seen. Spring is arriving earlier, and summers are hotter and drier. According to the EPA, Connecticut has warmed 2 to 3 degrees in the last century. This means that even when rain is falling, we are seeing increased evaporation in our state, leading to more droughts. In 2015 and 16, Connecticut was struck with a serious drought. The RWA's largest reservoir system was brought to only 45% of its capacity by November of 2016, despite being typically around 68% full at that time of year. And you probably know that drought is happening again in Connecticut. An abnormally dry 2020 has sent most of Connecticut into drought. The United States Drought Monitor map shows that all of eastern and north central Connecticut are experiencing extreme drought conditions, while the rest of the state is somewhere between abnormally dry and severe drought. While RWA's service territory is within the abnormally dry limits, we are definitely feeling the drought's impact. This chart shows the status of our reservoir storage in percent of full over the past couple years. The top plot is our actual storage level. The next plot down is our long-term average for the past 75 years. You can see that typically RWA is at our lowest storage levels between September and December, the valley of the plot, as a result of normally dry conditions in the summer and fall. And we are at our highest levels, the peak of the plot, in April and May after the winter, spring, and spring rains. If you follow the top plot, our actual storage along the graph, it shows that we have been well above our long-term average for about the past year and a half. Then right about where the second hump is, you can see that our storage began to decline to the point where at the end of September, our storage hit the long-term average. And just last week, we dropped below our long-term average by a couple of percentage points. While we still have a very healthy amount of water, 300 days at average demand, when we get to below our long-term average in a declining pattern, we begin mitigation measures to ensure we maintain a healthy water supply. These include asking our customers to reduce consumption by 10%, curtailing non-compliance water main flushing, maximizing production at our well fields, and similar conservation measures. The rest of the plots on the graph represent our stages of drought: advisory, watch, warning, and emergency. While there is a significant amount of time between where we are now and the advisory drought stage, there is not a lot of time between the succeeding stages. If it looks like we're headed to advisory stage, we will begin to take emergency actions such as putting into place measures to draw down one of our reservoirs below where we normally can, asking DEEP to suspend minimum stream flow release requirements, and invoking higher levels of requested and mandatory customer conservation. Fortunately, with the recent rains, it looks like the change in our storage may flatten or even slightly increase. As I noted previously, every town and city in our state is currently experiencing a drought or abnormally dry conditions, and the effects are immediately apparent. Look around Connecticut and you will see leaves turning their fall colors earlier than ever. This early change is a product of dry weather affecting the health of the trees that are struggling to withstand a changing climate. Climate change is getting worse, and it's getting harder to predict. We see this on the west coast of our country, where many heroes are trying to control massive wildfires. Human activity was once the primary cause of forest fires in California, allowing for corrective actions that prevented fires. Today, Fires are caused by lightning striking dry forests struggling with drought. These acts of nature cannot be as easily prevented as human-generated fires. Here in Connecticut, we have heard from people whose private wells have dried up in the drought, leaving them without enough water for their families. In the past, you could always dig a deeper well or a new well. Today, there's no guarantee that either option will find water. The climate is becoming harder to predict, making it more challenging to respond to or control issues. The RWA still has healthy water supplies available for its customers, but not all utilities or towns are so fortunate. Today, October 21st, the RWA and water utilities across the country are participating in Imagine a Day Without Water. This annual event seeks to remind people of all the ways that water systems impact our lives and communities, and that we must all commit to ensuring a sustainable water future for generations to come. What would your day be like if you couldn't turn on the tap and get clean drinking water? Washing our hands regularly is one of the most important steps we take to limit the spread of COVID-19. Without water, how would you protect your family and yourself? Questions like these remind us that we must not take water systems for granted. We must all act now to preserve this precious natural resource. Fortunately, there are many ways you can help by using water wisely. One of the most common ways we find that water is wasted is through inefficient use of irrigation systems. More than 9 billion gallons of water are used every day in this country for residential outdoor water use, and most of this is for irrigation. Experts estimate that approximately 1/2 of this water is wasted by poor irrigation practices. Irrigation systems used during the day result in significant water loss to evaporation. By adjusting the water schedules to the morning or evening, you can ensure that more water makes it to the plants that need it. And of course, never let your irrigation system run when it has been raining or when rain is soon predicted. On the subject of those plants, consider letting your grass grow a bit longer in the summer. Longer grass is healthier. It also requires less water to thrive. This is beneficial to reducing your water use and also helping your lawn to survive a hot and dry summer like the one we have just experienced. You can also consider installing a rain barrel on your property. Rain barrels capture dozens of gallons of water and use a simple hose system that you can connect to your drip irrigation system. Using rainwater for outdoor work and irrigation helps reduce your water consumption, and it reduces stormwater pollution. Rain barrels cut down on the amount of water that runs down the street, collecting trash, fertilizer, or other pollutants and carrying them into waterways. It is also important that you ensure your irrigation system is operating efficiently. This advice can be applied to all water-using appliances in your home and your business. Look for the Water Sense on appliances that use water. This label is given to products that are evaluated by the EPA and found to use water efficiently while delivering a high level of performance. Investing in water-efficient appliances can help save thousands of gallons of water while also reducing costs at your business. The Water Sense label can be found on irrigation equipment, shower heads, sink faucets, washing machines, and more. Finally, check for leaks. Whether it's a cracked pipe or a dripping faucet, a leak can waste hundreds of gallons of water very quickly. In fact, the RWA has recently been airing PSAs encouraging our customers to check for leaks and to use water wisely. Let's watch one now.
Water is a precious resource. Here's how you can use it wisely. Repair a leaky faucet. 1 drop per second wastes over 3,000 gallons of water per year. This Water Wise tip is brought to you by the Regional Water Authority. Learn more at ourwater.com.
There's a lot that each one of us can do to use water wisely, ensuring that this precious natural resource is available for future generations. If you are interested in learning more about wise water use, there are plenty of tips on the RWA's website, ourwater.com. That's the letter R, water.com. If you are on a public water system, it is likely that your own utility has conservation information available as well. There is also a link on our website to a tool you can use to calculate your own water footprint. I encourage you to give it a try. You may be shocked to find out how much water you are using each day. As you look to seek to reduce your water footprint, using water wisely is important, but it is only part of the solution if we are to avoid that imagined day without water. As I said at the onset of this presentation, Water resources need a healthy environment to protect them. Fortunately, there are many opportunities for all of us to embrace sustainability and at work and at home. At the RWA, sustainability and environmental protection are central aspects of our company's culture. Our employees regularly meet to identify strategies for the RWA to reduce waste and work more sustainably. Building a culture of sustainability can help generate green initiatives throughout an organization, but it must start at the top with executive level commitment to environmental protection. Business leaders cannot just talk about sustainability, they must demonstrate it. An increasingly achievable way to do this is by embracing renewable energy. This can be achieved directly by generating your own power with solar panels. The RWA installed a 1 megawatt solar array at one of our well fields several years ago. Last year, we found that this array produced approximately 61% of that facility's power needs. Generating your own energy using renewable sources helps to reduce your carbon footprint while also generating long-term savings on electric bills. However, if you do not have the ability to install solar panels, you can still turn to green energy through a purchase agreement. In December 2019, the RWA entered into an agreement with our energy provider to purchase renewable energy certificates for 100% of our energy demand. These certificates certify that all energy used by RWA will be matched with energy generation from wind, solar, or other renewable sources in order to reduce carbon dioxide emissions and support continued production of green energy. This plan is expected to reduce RWA's carbon footprint by 88%, eliminating approximately 7,200 tons of carbon per year. This renewable energy purchase agreement is sustainable not only in the environmental sense, but also for our business as well. While exploring the purchasing of green energy, we found that making the arrangements would not cost us any more than our previous energy agreement. Decisions like this also affirm to RWA employees our company's commitment to environmental sustainability. And when employees see the company leaders making a strong stand for the environment, they feel emboldened to do the same thing as well. If you walk through RWA, you will see posters from employees promoting sustainability. You will see weekly articles in our company newsletter providing tips to reduce waste. You will also see multiple stations where recyclables can be collected for their disposal. In 2014, the RWA conducted a waste audit to identify waste streams and the opportunities for improvements at our headquarters. From that audit, we began tracking our production of recyclables, revamped our recycling access and signage, and reduced our dumpster pulls from 5 a week to 3 a week. In 2015, we began a program to repurpose, donate, or recycle used office furniture. These programs were not edicts from the top down. They were initiatives proposed and championed by RWA employees. Because of this, they quickly gained buy-in throughout the company, helping them become successful and generating new initiatives. In 2016, RWA employees organized a rain barrel sale for our customers. These employees partnered with a manufacturer and arranged to have rain barrels sold at a steep discount to our customers. This sale, which now runs every year, has helped hundreds of people use water wisely. It has also been featured on several local news networks.
The rain barrels being used here at the Connecticut Audubon Society were donated by the Regional Water Authority.
In 2019, the RWA began collecting styrofoam from employees for recycling by local businesses, regardless of whether it was used at home or at work. Also in 2019, the RWA held an Employee Electronics and Paper Shredding Collection Day, ensuring that these items are properly disposed of and do not enter waste streams. About a year and a half ago, we conducted a trash audit and determined that 23% of waste at the company is recycled rather than going to the landfill. Another trash audit is planned for this month, following further staff training and encouragement to increase recycling. I'm very proud to work for a company that continually seeks new opportunities to protect the environment and safeguard the natural resources with which we are entrusted. In fact, just last week, we were proud to receive the 2020 Sustainable Water Utility Management Award from the Association of Metropolitan Water Agencies. This national award recognizes those companies that have made the commitment to reduce waste, promotes conservation, and fight climate change. I encourage you to look for opportunities to reduce waste at your own company through recycling and to help your customers live more sustainably. However, the most important thing you can do to protect our environment and fight climate change at work is to create a culture of sustainability. Make sustainability a central part of not just what your business does, but what it is at its core. Embolden your employees and your teammates to identify and pursue projects that reduce waste, promote conservation, and build a greener company. Give them tools they need to share ideas and the encouragement to pursue them. By making a commitment to pursue environmentally friendly projects in company leadership and promoting a culture of sustainability throughout your organization, you can transform your business into a force of good for our community and our climate. I want to thank you all for your time today, and I look forward to hearing your questions. However, before I go, I ask that you take a few minutes today to imagine a day without water. Think about what it would mean to not have a reliable, safe, and affordable source of water. For many people in the world, climate change has already made this imagined scenario a harsh reality. Climate change and access to water cannot be tomorrow's problem. We all must take a stand today to run our lives and our businesses in ways that are less wasteful and more sustainable. Thank you.
Wonderful presentation. Thank you, Ted. And toward the end, I found myself reaching for my glass of water thinking, so it absolutely is a precious resource. So we've had quite a few really good questions come through. Hey, Ted, how are you?
Good, how are you?
Good. Thank you so much for that. So we are all set to move into the question and answer portion after that wonderful presentation. And so if you have a question, you can go ahead and type it into the chat box, and I will be reading those for Ted to answer. Well, one thing I just wanted to point out is Rebecca says that she's definitely getting a rain barrel now.
That's great.
And okay, here's a question. So your presentation featured this wonderful case study from Modern Pizza in New Haven. What are some of the other types of businesses or industries that rely on water heavily?
There are many actually in our district. So our largest customer is actually the Yale University. And we have several other colleges and universities that also are in the top 10. So they're using a lot of water. We have hospitals that use a lot of water. Yale New Haven Hospital, I think, is our second largest customer in the district. Correction facility, we have one in our district, and that's I think our third or fourth largest user of water, as well as a lot of industrial organizations and biotech organizations are using water. But we also have, as we talked about in the Modern Pizza thing, is that we have a lot of places that serve a lot of food. You know, with a lot of colleges, students are looking for places to eat. So a lot of different kind of restaurants. And
breweries too, right?
We do have several breweries that are customers of ours. Yes, all relying on our high quality water.
Excellent. Is there a way we can unmute Rebecca? She's chiming in about her rain barrel. Maybe we could just hear real quick from her. I'm asking the, there we go.
There we go. I think I'm unmuted here. Hang on. Hopefully my kids don't come and interrupt me. I don't know if I'm trying to figure out how to turn my video on. I don't know if I can do that, but it doesn't matter. You don't need to see me anyway. I would love to look at how our town, I live in New Canaan. It is a very heavy home irrigation town. We were one of the few families this summer that stopped irrigating and let our lawn go into distress when droughts were hitting, but we saw many of our neighbors not doing that. And I actually I work with Planet New Canaan volunteer efforts here in town. And we've done a great initiative with composting at the dump that's actually going into effect at the end of this month. The next thing I'm taking on is an EPS ban for the town in lieu of a statewide ban. But I would love to understand how we might be able to promote, because I do believe that there are a good number of people in town that would do rainwater collection with water barrels. And I know you said that you did this as part of a deeply discounted access through, I think it was through the Water Association there, and how to best promote that in our town. Because I do think that it's something, again, to be perfectly frank, I hadn't even thought about it, which is kind of crazy considering all the other things I think of. But I hadn't even thought about us doing it personally. So I was like, well, as you were talking, I was looking up rain barrels, to order online. But I'm thinking about how can we promote it more broadly within our town and within Fairfield County even.
Yeah, so when I talked about that, Rebecca, I talked about that this was a really employee owned venture. They were the ones who said, let's do something different that we can use for conservation. Let's look outside the box, and then found rain barrels and have been promoting them for now, I think, for 6 years. So promotion for us goes out through our website and social media, which is heavily followed by a lot of different folks. And then as well as at times we'll use the newspapers and other types of media to promote what's going on. But a lot of people hear about it from our social media that we're in, their Facebook or Twitter, other accounts as well.
Excellent. Okay, so here's a question. Do you know which states or is the EPA doing work together to conserve? So is there any kind of collaboration to conserve water resources, like Casper for air quality from the EPA?
I've not heard about a combination of states or EPA districts even coming together under one umbrella to do water conservation.
Okay. And okay, here's one. While this may seem counterintuitive, does RWA work with local municipal planning and zoning boards so that they can encourage beyond basic building codes by offering suggestions about land use regulations?
Yes, we actually work very closely with local planning and zoning commissions. Where the project is considered is on our watershed, they're required, state law requires them to send us a copy of the application and request a permit, or request our opinion of the project. So in that way, we are deeply meshed with all of the projects that go on within our watershed areas, so that we can ascertain whether there's concerns that we might have that could impact water supplies or water quantity. So we work very closely with them.
Excellent. So let's see here. We have, sorry. Are there any education programs that you know of, Ted, that help people with less watering in on their landscaping? It could be particularly for companies who own a lot of real estate.
Yeah, so I wanted to mention, I didn't get a chance to during the webcast, is that EPA has a site called WaterSense. I mentioned WaterSense during my talk, and they're at different levels. You can go commercial, industrial, or for just regular residential uses. But for commercial industrial, they have just a whole host of different kinds of tools and checklists that you can use to ascertain what your water use is, where there might be opportunities to conserve, what best management practices might be. So those are the places really to look for that kind of information in terms of conservation.
Great, and I did see something go into the chat box, a link to some of the tips that you included in your presentation, so folks can feel free to click that link and can go there.
Yeah, there's a whole page, there's a page and a half of tips that we have for either indoor or exterior use for mainly for residences, but it also works for businesses as well.
Excellent. So here's a question. Do you have agreements and or the ability to share water with other watershed areas? So, how does that work?
Yeah, so we have 3 agreements with utilities that are close to us, that are adjacent to us, to sell them wholesale water. So we wholesale out water to 3 different utilities that are near us. We also have emergency interconnections with 2 other utilities there, whereby that if there's an emergency, like it says, water can go backwards or forwards to them or to us, depending on what's going on. So those, the wholesale agreements have been in place for a long time. And we actually, in our rate schedule, we actually have a particular wholesale rate that they are charged.
Excellent. And I see that Dan just put in water wise ways tips from the RWA in the link again. So thank you for that, Dan. So a former Connecticut resident who recently moved to New Hampshire is saying, since moving to New Hampshire and having my own well, which requires street power, I no longer take running water for granted. How do you send the message to people about how important it is to conserve and appreciate water when it's very cheap and reliable for them? I would say, how do we do that in the business context, right? So right now it's a fairly, the pizza guy was just talking about how cheap it is. And that's true with some of the other things we've been talking about today as well, is, these natural resources that are finite are obviously going to increase in cost as they become more difficult to obtain. So what would your message be to people about, how do you get companies to conserve water when right now it's a pretty cheap purchase for them?
So it's kind of a good side, bad side. We're a water company, so we do want to sell water, but we're also environmentally conscious and we don't want to overuse our resources. So the message really goes out not only to our businesses, but to all of our customers to try to be conservation minded in terms of water by using some of the tips that we mentioned. Certainly during a drought period that we're in now, we've asked all of our customers to reduce their usage by 10%. And that goes up depending on what level of drought we're in. It goes up to 20% when we are in a warning stage, actually. And then mandatory is after that. So really, it's depends on where we are in terms of water supplies. But right now we're doing okay, but we're not sure where this is headed in terms of the drought. So we ask all of our customers, and everybody across Connecticut should really be thinking about what the water use that they're using, because this drought is impacting not only us, but everywhere in the state.
Yeah, and Connecticut is such a lush, we have lush landscapes. So it's almost, it's not Arizona by any stretch. So it's difficult sometimes for people to understand that, in fact, we do have droughts.
And if a drought like we are in now, it's really like a 1-season drought. If this drought continues over the winter, which is when your water utilities normally refill, the winter and the spring, we count on that refilling. If this drought continues and we are not able to refill to the levels that we have, and this will be applicable to all public water utilities in Connecticut, then the second year is really a year things can get very severe and into the emergency stage. So that's what we're tracking right now to making sure we're starting to come back. Everybody in the state starting a little bit more rain, but not to the extent that we could use to catch up.
And Glenn.
Hi, Ted. This is a very, very passionate topic for me. As you may have guessed, I grew up in a hot, dusty country called Australia. So I have a very special relationship with water because there wasn't much of it. And I did a lot of work in the outback. And for about 3 years, I lived on a house that was off the grid. So it was entirely living off rainwater that was caught and stored in tanks. So I follow your whole narrative about the barrels and everything. Of course, if you are relying on rainwater, then the barrels become much bigger. Our tanks were 5,000 gallons and we had 4 of them. But it did give me an acute sense and a great appreciation of the value of water in every single drop. And I come here, of course, in New England, and there are lakes and rivers everywhere full to the brim. So I understand that it might be a little bit harder for some people to understand what a drought looks like, because in many cases that's not ever been recorded or seen in a meaningful way in this area. So I really like what you guys do in terms of assigning a value to it and talking about its value to everything that we do and touch. And as I put in the notes, the Connecticut breweries are doing quite well, I'm sure, powered by, of course, some good H2O. So well done, and thanks for that.
Thank you, Glenn. Yeah, we don't have droughts like you guys have or had in Australia, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much, Ted, for a really valuable program and a very important issue. And I do hope everyone will think, I will certainly think, and ask my kids to think too, about what the world would be like without water.
Okay, use water wisely.